Chapter 36, The Ocean. The robot swam and swam and swam, never stopping, never slowing, always moving north. It seemed like the ocean would never end. Chapter 37, The Battery. Inside Roz was a battery that could power her body for incredibly long periods. On land, her battery recharged whenever she was in sunlight. But Roz had spent weeks swimming far below the reach of the sun, and finally her battery began running low. So she headed to the surface to recharge. When human divers return from great depths, they rise slowly so their bodies can adjust to the changing pressure. Our robot, however, had no such concerns, and she rushed upward at full speed. The ocean around her faded from black to blue to bright aqua. The currents became stronger and the water became warmer, and as she swam into the sunny upper ocean, her battery also began refilling with energy. Chapter 38, The Pod. As her long ocean journey continued, Roz passed the time by sharpening her skills of echolocation. With practice, she identified an underwater mountain range and a sleeping whale, a piece of driftwood, long before she saw them. But our robot wasn't the only creature using echolocation around there. First, she heard wild whistling, and then she heard rapid clicking. The whistles and clicks grew louder and faster, and a pod of dolphins surged into view. The dolphins crowded Roz, studying her and prodding her and chattering to themselves. "Now, what do you think this is? It's got a hard shell, and it swims funny. Is it some kind of sea turtle?" Roz said, "I am not a sea turtle. I am a robot. My name is Roz." "Did you hear that, everyone? This creature's a robot. It's a robot named Roz. Hey, Roz the robot, can you do this?" And one of the dolphins suddenly pumped his tail and leaped out of the water, and a moment later he came splashing back down into the waves. "Yes, I believe I can do that," said Roz. The robot suddenly kicked her legs and launched herself up out of the water. For the first time in weeks, she felt the light touch of air against her body. And then gravity pulled her down back into the waves. The dolphins were impressed. They cheered and laughed and peppered Roz with questions. But the lively mood changed when she mentioned her mission. Then the dolphins started chattering again. "We've stayed clear of the poison tide, but we know about the damage it's causing. It must be stopped. What can we do to help?" Roz answered, "You can tell me where to find the ancient shark." "Well, they say she lives in the Northern Ocean. To get there, you'll have to swim west, around a very long stretch of land." Roz asked, "Could I get there faster by traveling over the land rather than around it?" "We don't know much about land. You should speak with the Seabirds. Yeah, Seabirds will show you the fastest way. Okay, everyone, let's find Roz some Seabirds." And the pod of dolphins surged into action. But instead of swimming upward, as you might expect, they swam downward into the depths. You see, the dolphins knew exactly how to attract seabirds. They rounded up a school of fish, circling them, forcing them into a tight cluster. And all at once, the dolphins blew air from their blowholes, and a dense layer of bubbles carried the fish up to the surface, where they thrashed through the waves, and soon flocks of hungry seabirds were flying toward the scene. Chapter 39, The Seabirds. Seabirds from all around were drawn to a frothy, fishy patch of ocean. Gulls and terns hovered above the water, picking fish from the waves. Only the puffins took the plunge. Their plump bodies plopped into the surf, and then they started to hunt. Flapping their short wings, the puffins seemed to fly through the water as they snatched fish with their sturdy beaks. When one of the puffins plopped back to the surface, he slammed into something hard. A lifeless fish dangled from his beak as he squawked, "Oi! I'm fifth in here. I do not understand, said the robot, who was treading water beside him. The puffin grunted, and then he spit out the fish and secured it with his wing. I said, I'm fishing here. I am sorry for disturbing you, said the robot, but I need to speak with a seabird. I am on a mission to stop the poison tide, and The puffin cut in. Oh, I know about the poison tide. It came to the coast where I used to live. The other birds were so excited to see dead fish piling up on the rocks, but old Kerplunk knew better. That's my name, Kerplunk. Nice to meet you. Well, anyway, I said, don't touch the fish. I said something didn't smell right, but nobody would listen. They gobbled down as many fish as they could, and pretty soon the rocks were piling up with dead birds. I moved my family to a safer spot, but so many fish are leaving the area that we might have to leave too. It was a troubling story. The robot didn't know what to say, and neither did the puffin. They quietly bobbed on the waves together. Behind them, the feeding frenzy calmed down, and the other seabirds flew off. And at last, Roz said, I must find the ancient shark. I have heard that she lives in the Northern Ocean. Can you show me the fastest way there? Kerplunk winked and said, No problem. The puffin gripped the fish with his beak, and then he flapped his wings and scampered over the waves and lifted into the air. Roz followed him through the water, and before long a rugged coastline climbed into view. That coast had once been home to thousands of seabirds, and now only a few hundred were left. They were screeching and soaring and nesting on the hillsides, and in addition to puffins and gulls and terns, there was another type of bird called a skua. Two skuas peeled away from the others and bolted toward Kerplunk. They wanted his fish. The puffin saw them coming. He dodged left and right, then swooped low, skimming the water. The skuas curved through the air and beat their wings and easily caught up to Kerplunk. They harassed the poor puffin, nipping at his tail and at his wings, and finally they grabbed his fish and sent him tumbling into the sea. Are you okay? Said Roz when she reached him. Kerplunk grunted. I'm okay, but now I got more fishing to do. He pointed at the coast where a stream was cascading down a grassy slope. Follow that stream back across the land, said Kerplunk. It'll lead you to a glacier, and from there you'll see the Northern Ocean. Roz, do us all a favor and stop the poison tide, would you? Life is hard enough out here as it is. The robot watched as the puffin took off and headed back out to catch another meal. Chapter 40, The Underwater Forest. The waters along that coast were home to a lush forest of kelp. Tall stalks of seaweed swayed as huge waves went rolling over. Sunlight filtered through the shifting foliage and dappled the seafloor. And just like forests on land, this underwater forest was teeming with wildlife. Barnacles clung to rocks. Schools of fish swirled out from the greenery. Otters dove down and tore clams from the reef. Roz was working her way through the kelp forest when she noticed that she was being followed. A creature was darting from shadow to shadow as it trailed after her. The robot tried to go faster, but the water currents and the moving kelp slowed her down. Rather than fleeing from the mysterious creature, Roz decided to hide. She quickly wrapped a kelp frond around her torso, smeared sand over her limbs, placed seashells on her head, and nestled into the ground. And for a brief moment, she blended into the reef. But camouflage works a little differently underwater, and soon the kelp was unraveling, the sand was drifting away, the shells were sliding off, and there was our robot out in the open as an octopus crawled out from the shadows. The octopus had red skin, a bulging head, and 8 wriggling arms. But something about her movements signaled that she wasn't dangerous. She was curious. "Who are you?" said the octopus. "My name is Roz. I am a robot." "My name is Limber. I'm an octopus." "I was afraid you might be dangerous," said Roz, "so I tried to camouflage myself." Limber laughed. "That wasn't camouflage. This is camouflage." And the octopus crawled onto a rocky ledge and squeezed her big, squishy body into a small crevice, and her skin suddenly turned rough and gray until she perfectly matched her surroundings. In an instant, the octopus had become part of the reef. Roz couldn't believe her eyes. "I have never seen a better display of camouflage," she said, "not in the ocean or on land." A chunk of rock seemed to melt, and the octopus reappeared. "You've been on land?" "I have spent most of my life on land," said Roz. "I love land," said Limber. "I climb onto the shore every once in a while. It's so refreshingly bright and airy. I wish I could spend more time up there." "I am headed to shore now," said Roz, pointing. "Oh, you don't want to go that way," said Limber. "The waves will smash you against the rocks. Let me show you a better way." Limber wrapped a strong arm around Roz's wrist, and then the octopus jetted off through the water, dragging the robot behind her. They glided between kelp fronds and over seagrass and into a cave in the side of the reef. Now the cave was long and dark, with only a few shafts of light streaming down from cracks in the ceiling. At the end of the cave was an opening in the rock, and they climbed up through it and onto the bright, sunny shore. Limber crawled into a tide pool, and she and Roz chatted over the sounds of crashing waves. When the robot explained her mission, the cheerful octopus turned gray and serious. "So it's real," said Limber. "I hope the poison tide was merely a rumor. What do you know about it? Will it ever come here?" "What I know is that the poison tide is made of toxic dust that is flowing along ocean currents," said Roz. "What I do not know is whether it will ever come here." "You have to stop it," Limber shouted. "You have to do whatever it takes." And the octopus turned away and then quietly said, "Please forgive my outburst. I have a lot on my mind right now. A few days from now, I'll crawl inside my den and lay eggs. I'll spend the last few months of my life watching over them. By the time my eggs hatch, I'll be dead. We octopus mothers sacrifice everything for our young. Sometimes I dream about my tiny hatchlings, and in my dream I hold them close and I say that I'll always protect them. It's only a dream, though. I won't be alive to protect them. And that's why you must stop the poison tide, and then maybe my hatchlings will have a chance to grow up." "I will do everything in my power to stop the poison tide," said Roz. Limber squinted at the hot sun and said, "I should be going." And the octopus started crawling along the rocks. But before dropping into the water, she looked back and added, "Good luck, Roz. I'm counting on you. We're all counting on you."